Hello and welcome to the second of two videos about the new masking features in Adobe Lightroom Classic and CC for 2021. In the first video, I covered the basics of the masking interface and how they're very similar in both programs, Classic and CC. I'll leave a link to that video down below here. And in this video, what I want to cover are the masking tools, which are the radial gradient, the linear gradient tool, and then also show you how to use the brush tool to create a selective color effect. So let's get started with some photos and how these tools work and why we use them. So we're going to hop over to Lightroom and take a look at that. What the selective editing tools in the masking panel in Lightroom Classic and CC let you do is shape attention, basically. That's mostly why I use them, is you want to pull attention to different areas in the photo, and there's different ways to do that, different shapes and tools to help you be more effective and simple in doing that. So in this photo, this portrait, when I created the photo, the background's a little too bright for my preference now. And what I really want to do is make Paul, his face here, I want to make his face brighter than all the other stuff around it. So what I really want to do is relight this photo with Lightroom. And there's a very simple and easy way to do that inside of with the new masking tools, and I'm going to show that to you now. So to get started with this, we're going to click on the masking tools, and they're in the toolbar right below the histogram. In Lightroom CC, they're going to be in a vertical panel. It's the same icon. It's a circle with a dashed line around it. Those are the masking tools. And for this one, the one I'm going to use is the radial gradient. So it's going to be an oval or elliptical shape where I can change exposure and light inside of that shape or outside of that shape. So let's get started. I'm going to click on the radial gradient. It brings up the mask overlay interface, and it says new mask, and it's waiting for me to do something. And what it's waiting for me to do is define where I want the mask to be. So I just want to create a mask around Paul's head. So the way this radial gradient works is you click where you want it to start, and and then you draw and expand out from there. It will expand out equally vertically and horizontally. So the middle of most things on people's faces is their nose. So click there, hold, and drag. So my overlay color, the blue you're seeing, that's the overlay color. That's not the way it's going to look. But what you're seeing here as well is the inner ellipse is the area that will be affected 100%, and the outer area is the soft edge of that effect. So I'm going to let go, and now we will take a look at how this tool works. In the radial gradient, the tool part, the control part, we have a feather, which is the softness of that edge. So I can make it softer up to 100 or harder at 0. And as you might imagine, if I did 0, you're going to really see where the effect is taking place. So remember, the way this interface works is wherever the mask is showing is what's being changed. In this case, what will be changed is Paul's face, which is not what I want actually. What I want is, Paul's face is fine as far as exposure and color that I want. It's everything else that I want to change in this photo. Here's how you do that. So I have Paul's face defined. Actually, I want to go to a feather of about 20. They've changed how the feather works in this tool. I used to say use a feather of about 50 on this, but now I use about 20 to 25, depending on what I'm trying to do. Anyway, back to my story. Apologies for the ramble. I want to change where this will affect, which is outside of Paul's head. So I'm going to click up here in the effects control part and change it to invert. And now the mask is outside of Paul, and Paul's head is not changed. Okay? Wherever you see the color, in this case the blue, will be changed. So what change do I want to do? Remember I said I wanted to make that darker. So I'm going to start with exposure and just darken that up. I'm going to also do a little negative clarity there. That'll just give a little blur and softness back there, a little negative texture. What else I want to do? Maybe pull the blacks down in there just to darken it up a little bit. So you can see I've got a little bit of extra brightness right here to the left of Paul's face. So I'm just going to adjust the mask, just move it. Like all these tools, the way you can move them is to click on the pin that's in the center. So I can just click and move this. I can even resize this if I want. If it's too big, I can make it smaller. I can make it narrower. I can rotate it if I want. The way you rotate is just put the cursor outside the main circle and you just click and hold and change the rotation. Pretty easy. So now I have my mask and my spotlight now basically on just Paul's head, and everything else is a little bit darker, and that is what I want. Let's see what it looked like without it. So too bright in the background, and that's what it looks like now here. It's easy to kind of overcompensate with these, so I think this is a little too dark in the background, so I'm just going to brighten it back up. Oftentimes what I'll do when making these adjustments is go where I think it looks good and then back up from there either direction. If I made it brighter, make it a little less bright. If I make it darker, make it a little less dark. Yeah. So that's a quick start with the radial filter to use an oval elliptical shape to change exposure in a photo. We're going to move now to the graduated filter, the linear gradient as it used to be called, and here we go. So in this photo I want to change the sky. I want the sky to have a little more drama to it. I want the sky to have more impact in the photo. If you watch the first video, and if you haven't, there's the link there for that. There is a cool set of automatic selection tools in the new masking panel, and one of them is Select Sky. So we're going to start there with the mask panel open, and I'm going to click Select Sky, and it's going to do some thinking for just a moment. And it's going to select my sky. So it's showing with a blue overlay, which because the sky is blue, it's a little hard to make sure you've selected what you want. So I'm going to change my mask color again by clicking on this little blue square in the mask panel and click on it and choose a different color. I'm going to go back to that original red right there. And now I can clearly see where the mask is happening. And the mask shows again what will be changed. I like to name my masks. If I only have one, I don't, but if I ever think I'm going to have more than one, I name them. So in this case, I double clicked on the word mask, and then I just clicked, and I'm going to type the new name, which is sky. So with the sky selected, what do I want to do? I want to bring more drama, more interest to the sky. So I usually start on that stuff with the presence controls of texture, clarity, and dehaze. Turn up the texture, turn up the clarity. If you really want to see drama in your skies, the dehaze tool is your friend. So that's a little much, at least for me. Your mileage will vary. So crank that up as much as you'd like and bring in the more drama to the sky. Now, one thing that's true about skies is they tend to be different higher in the scene than they are where the horizon is. So oftentimes what you'll do is you would have a gradual effect of this. So it's stronger at the top, and maybe the effect that you're doing, in this case the sharpening and attention, is less as it meets the horizon. So we can do another cool thing with the masking panel is add a gradual change to this affecting only the sky. It's probably easier if I show you how to do that. So here's how you do that. In the sky that we've named, or that's actually the sky that was selected, click on the three dots, and then you're going to add intersect mask with a linear gradient. A linear gradient. So a linear gradient is a line. It goes from effect to no effect. And so in this case, what I'm going to do is draw a gradient starting from the top of the sky where I want it to have effect, and then clicking and holding and defining the area where I want the change to not affect. So I'm going to click and hold, and I'm going to draw and click and hold and pull down. It's a little hard to see with this going on, so I'm just going to throw in some exposure change so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm not going to leave it like this, but I'm just using this to demonstrate. So what happens is you can see the graduated area. The middle of these three lines is where the 50% is. Above that, in this case, because I started from the top, will be gradually getting to 100% at that top line, and then below will gradually go to 0% of that effect. And you can see the mask is changing. It's gradually going away. So the cool thing about this is I can even drag this down here, but you can see it's not affecting the bottom of the image because it's intersecting this linear gradient with that sky mask. Really cool. This is new in this version of Lightroom, and it saves so much time, and it saves confusion, and it's just such a good thing. So I don't want that exposure change, at least that drastic a one, so I'm just going to drag that back to about 0. And then I have my mask available to me. I could change the length of the duration. I can make it shorter. I can rotate it. Let's say you want the sky to look different on the left and the right. I don't know why you would, but you can go at an angle, you can go straight, and then you can move this where it affects. And there you go. It's really powerful. One of the things our digital cameras have a hard time doing is rendering bright, which is often the sky, and dark, which is often everything that's not the sky. So you can help your photos quite a bit by doing this kind of treatment where when you have a lot of the skies showing in your photos. So I'm just going to kind of fine tune this a little bit, maybe a little bit less even still of exposure, negative. Mostly what I did here in the sky was the texture, clarity, and dehaze to just bring more drama into it. Obviously you have all these controls you can play with. It's going to vary on your photos which ones look best. So let's just do a quick before and after to show you what it looks like without this. So I'm going to hide the edit with the mask, and that's what the sky looked like in the original photo. Here's what it looks like now. Much more drama, much more postcard, much more like it felt when I was there. All right, next we're going to move to another portrait photo, and we're going to use both the radial filter and the linear gradient to edit this photo. And again, showing you how you can layer these, have multiple of these to work together and do what you want. So we're going to start with the face here. I want the face to be just a little bit brighter than everything else. And I'm also then in the top left corner going to darken that corner down a little bit to again bring more attention back to the face. So the mask panel is already open. I'm going to start with my radial gradient, and I'm just going to click and draw the area I want to change. So the area I want to change is her face, is Kate's face. I want a little bit less feather there, about 20. I don't know about you, but when you talk to your computer, do you kind of talk in a different voice? Like my Lightroom voice is different than my regular voice. Anyway, I've got her face covered, and what I want to do, like I mentioned, is brighten it up just a little bit. And I'm also going to brighten the shadows. On faces, here's a little portrait tip. If you want to hide wrinkles, not that Kate has any, but one way to hide the stuff we get as we get older is you brighten up the shadows. Another way to do that is to decrease contrast. You have to be a little careful with both of those, that you don't push and pull too much that it starts looking plastic or fake or very obvious. So that's basically all I wanted to do. It's just a little nudge here. I just want to nudge a little extra brightness into her face, and that's what I need for that. So the next thing I want to do, I'm going to name my mask, because you'll be glad you did. So I'm going to click on double click on the mask and call this face. And I'm going to do a new mask, create new mask up here on the plus button. And this will be a linear gradient. I'm going to start from the sky and pull in. Usually with these, you have to play around and adjust a little bit here and there to taste. What I want to do over there is darken that a little bit. I'm going to use the shadow slider to darken that. I'm going to take the highlights down as well as the whites. You want this to look natural. And sometimes just dragging exposure, no good. So gentle with the exposure and use the rest of the tone controls, highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks to get you the look you want. So there we go. So I want to name this mask. I'm going to call this Sky. Well, we'll call it Top Left, because that's what it is. So without the top left mask, and there's without her face. It's just a pretty mild adjustment to her face, but it makes a big difference. So overall, there you go. We used a radial filter to brighten her face, graduated linear filter, linear gradient to darken that top left corner, again to pull attention more to her face, the subject of the photo. All right, one more for fun. One more for fun here. A real common effect is what's called selective color, where you make everything in the image black and white except for one element which remains in color. And I'm going to show you how to do that using the masking tools. And then I want to show you how to use it as an editing tool, as a attention shaping tool. So we'll get started. It's only about 3 steps, if I remember correctly. So here's step number 1. With the masking options open, you're going to use a brush for your first step. And then what you're going to do is make a huge brush. Make sure auto mask is turned off. And you can go ahead at this point and take your saturation in the effects part and take it to -100. What we're going to paint with is black and white. We're painting all the color out. So I'm just going to click and paint on my image. And there you go. It's all black and white. Easy. The next step is in bringing back the color where I want it to be, which is just on the one orange leaf. So I'm going to change to the erase tool over here. I'm going to leave auto mask on. And next what I'm going to do is use a small eraser. So I'm using a small brush. I made my brush smaller with the mouse wheel. I'm just going to click and hold and paint back where I want the color to return in the image. I do have auto mask turned on for this, especially around the edges. That'll help me be a little more precise. I've been painting with a mouse long enough that even though I am left-handed when I write, I can paint better with a mouse with my right hand than my left. So there you go. All right, so go around the edges real quick-ish. And then once you've got the edges done, what are you going to do? You're going to turn off auto mask, go to a larger brush, and finish painting in the inside. The reason I turn off auto mask when I paint on larger areas is that way the auto mask won't be detecting the like the contrast difference here along the spine of the leaf, and then I have to paint over it twice. All right, so there you go. That's selective color using the brush mask. So this is a special effect, but you can use this special effect as a quick way to get you to where you want, so that now I can just pull attention to this leaf. And here's what I mean by that. So instead of being -100 with the saturation, so I still have the mask active. So I put the mouse here, it's still active. So wherever it's red is going to be affected by what I do next. So with the mask active, I don't want it to be pure black and white, but I want it to be less colorful there. I want to pull attention to the leaf. So the way I'm going to do that is to bring the saturation to right around -50. So I take a lot of the color out of the rocks, the wet, shiny rocks, so that it increases contrast. The next thing I'm going to do to increase contrast on those rocks is turn the exposure down a little bit. Don't do that. That looks special effect again. I want it to look like it could have looked like this. And then I'm going to pull it down to about minus 0.5. And what else do I want to do? Well, maybe just darken that a little bit with the blacks as well. We'll take the blacks to about minus 8 or 9. And there you go. Now there is one little thing that's still pulling attention, because the only thing that's got color now is the leaf, plus there's a little red leaf up here too. So what I'm going to do is do a new mask, a brush. I'm going to paint with minus 100 and just quickly, that's too big, smaller brush. I'm just going to do a quick hit on that right there. This works. I wasn't very precise, you'll notice when I did that, because there's the metal of the train tracks right there that's also has no color. So you'll learn when you can be lazy and sloppy and when you need to be precise. So what this does is, instead of going to the full selective color, what I've done is use selective color as a starting point to pull attention to that leaf. So there's some information, a quick look at how to use the radial filter in the new masking interface, how to use the linear filter in the new masking interface, how to use Select Sky, all the new features that are really powerful in the masking panel in Lightroom Classic and Lightroom CC. They give you lots of options for shaping attention, for directing the story you want to tell with the photo through color and light. And I hope you have a lot of fun experimenting with them, using them in your photos to tell the story you want to tell. If you have questions, you have comments, please leave them in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it very much if you'd hit the thumbs up button. Well, don't hit it, gently press it. And that will train the YouTube algorithm about videos that you find helpful and interesting. And if you want to see more Lightroom videos, more photography videos, please subscribe to this channel. That would be a big help as well. Tell a friend or 10 and let them know, hey, you got to see this stuff, or it's worth a laugh anyway, or put you to sleep, whatever is true for you. So there you have it, a quick introduction to the radial gradient, the linear gradient, and how to use the brush tool to create a selective color effect that you modify to pull attention in your photos. This new interface, the masking tools in Lightroom Classic and CC, is really powerful with the addition of the Select Sky and the Select Subject, as well as the intersecting with the other options. It just gives you so many new tools and ways to be creative in telling the stories you want to tell with light and color in your photos, and shaping attention, shaping feeling, getting that look that you want without hopping over to Photoshop that will take years to learn. So I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the notes below, in the comments below. I'd appreciate that. Let's have a conversation. If you like this video, please gently press that like button. That'll train YouTube algorithm about videos you find helpful and interesting. And if you want to see more stuff about Lightroom, about photography, about Fujifilm cameras, about tips and things I've learned along the way, please subscribe to this channel. Please tell a friend or 10. Let them know what you think, and that's always a big help. That's greatly appreciated. Hope you have fun using these new tools in your photos in Lightroom. Use them to shape and tell the story you want to tell with your photos. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. So until then, stay safe, stay well, and bye for now.